Chosen one, you were right. They attacked you out of spite and malice, but the truth runs even deeper than you realized. Someone decided your blessings were a threat. Someone believed your future was too powerful. Someone saw your evolution and panicked, so they plotted. They manipulated circumstances, not because you did anything wrong, but because you existed with favor they couldn't control. They wanted to dim you before your light exposed their insecurity. Your spirit wasn't warning you of destruction, it was signaling what's approaching. Something massive, something undeniable, something they can no longer stop. Your whole life has been lived inside a structure of limitations, 0 through 9. That's been your playing field, that's been your reality, that's been the boundary of what you thought was available. And you've been climbing through those numbers your entire existence, working through the levels, overcoming the obstacles, learning the lessons, and recently you hit 9, you completed something, you reached the end of a cycle. When you got there, you looked up and saw something that changed everything. There's something beyond 9, something outside the system, something you were never told about because you needed to believe 9 was the ceiling. You needed to think the matrix was all there is. You needed to accept that the limitations you experienced were ultimate and unchangeable. But you reached the edge and you glimpsed what exists on the other side, a whole new dimension, a completely different frequency, a realm where the old rules don't apply and the old gatekeepers have no power. The moment you saw it, the moment you started moving toward it, everything intensified. Attacks became more obvious. Malice revealed itself. Spite stopped hiding. What was happening became clear. If you make it beyond that edge, if you step into that new dimension, if you access that higher frequency, you become untouchable, you become undeniable, you become proof that limitations are lies. So you had to be stopped before crossing over. Some of you kept getting bumped into, over and over, accidentally on purpose. Someone kept colliding with your bank account and helping themselves. Oops, that was just a small amount, my bad. Oops, I borrowed that, I thought you wouldn't notice. Oops, I needed that for something important, I'll pay you back. But payment never came back. It wasn't about the money, it was about destabilizing your finances so you couldn't build momentum toward that edge. It was about keeping you stressed and worried so you couldn't focus on your breakthrough. It was about creating chaos in your resources so you'd be too distracted to see where you're actually headed. For others, the bumping came through reputation. Lies started spreading. Stories that made no sense started circulating. Rumors painted you as something you're not. And when you defended yourself, more lies appeared, more stories emerged, more people looked at you sideways. Someone was running a campaign, someone was systematically destroying your credibility, so that when your breakthrough arrived, people would question whether you deserved it. Pre-discrediting was happening before your elevation, because if your reputation stayed intact, your rise would be unstoppable. And for some of you, the bumping came through isolation. People you trusted became distant. Friends you thought were solid turned cold. Family you relied on became critical, not because you changed, not because you did something wrong, but because someone was in ears planting seeds. Someone was painting you as selfish, ungrateful, difficult. Someone was isolating you deliberately because you needed to be alone, not as punishment but as preparation. You needed to be set apart so you could receive what's breaking through. When someone acts out of spite, there's a specific energy signature to it. It feels different from regular conflict. It feels different from honest disagreement. It feels different from simple misunderstanding. Spite has a coldness to it, a calculation, a deliberate intention to cause harm, not because of self-defense, but because of wanting to see you hurt. You felt that, you recognized it, even when smiles were in your face, even when kind words were used, even when pretending to care was happening. Underneath it all, you sensed the ice. Malice goes even deeper. Malice is spite with planning. Malice is spite with strategy. Malice is spite that wakes up thinking about how to hurt you and goes to sleep satisfied when it succeeds. Malice doesn't just react, It orchestrates. It doesn't just respond. It initiates. It doesn't just defend. It attacks preemptively. And you've been dealing with malice. Pure, calculated, intentional malice, the kind that studies your patterns to find your weak spots, the kind that watches your moves to predict your next step, the kind that gathers information about you not to understand you, but to use against you. Some of you knew exactly when the shift happened. You remember the moment when someone's energy toward you changed. Maybe it was after you got a promotion someone else wanted. Maybe it was after you posted about a blessing someone else had been praying for. Maybe it was after you set a boundary someone didn't like. Maybe it was after you said no to something you were expected to say yes to. Whatever it was, you remember the shift, the temperature drop, the mask slip, the truth flash across a face before recovery happened, and the smile came back on. You saw it, you felt it, you knew it, but you probably questioned yourself. You probably thought maybe you were reading too much into it. You probably told yourself to give benefit of the doubt, but your first instinct was correct. That shift you felt was real. That change you sensed was accurate. That coldness you detected was actual. A decision was made about you in that moment. A decision that you didn't deserve what you have. A decision that you needed to be taken down. And from that point forward, everything done toward you was filtered through that decision. If this message awakens something within you, hype this video for other chosen ones who need to hear this. You know what's interesting about spite and malice. Energy is required. Consistent energy. Sustained energy. Focused energy. Think about how much effort it takes to maintain a grudge, how much mental space it occupies to plot against someone, how much emotional investment is required to stay angry enough to keep attacking. Most people don't have that kind of stamina for negativity. Most people get tired of being mad. Most people eventually let things go and move on. But whoever attacked you had stamina. Consistency was there. Dedication was there, not to personal growth, not to personal healing, not to personal elevation, but to your destruction. That should tell you something. That level of focus, that amount of energy, that degree of commitment, it only shows up when someone perceives you as a significant threat. You don't dedicate that much time and effort to someone who doesn't matter. You don't invest that much malice in someone who isn't important. You don't orchestrate spite-filled campaigns against someone who isn't powerful. The very dedication to attacking you is proof of your value. The consistency in trying to stop you is evidence of your potential. The refusal to let it go is confirmation of your threat level. Something in you was seen that you might not have fully seen in yourself yet. Something about your future was recognized that you were still discovering. Something about your destiny was detected that you were still growing into, and it scared whoever saw it. It intimidated them. It threatened them. Because once you fully stepped into that thing being seen, once you completely activated that gift being sensed, once you totally embraced that power being detected, you would be beyond reach. You would be operating on a level that couldn't be accessed by attackers. You would be living in a dimension that couldn't be entered by opposition. So attacks came while access was still available. Sabotage happened while proximity still existed. Interference occurred while the window was still open. Because the window was closing, the season was shifting, the momentum was building, and the move was made, not just once, not just twice, but repeatedly, consistently, systematically. Every time you tried to rise, pushing down happened. Every time you tried to move forward, obstacles were created. Every time you tried to break through, crises were manufactured. Things were often done in ways that looked accidental. Oops, I forgot to include you in that important meeting. Oops, I didn't realize you needed that information by today. Oops, I thought someone else was handling that opportunity for you. Oops, I must have misunderstood what you needed. Plausible deniability, that's what was relied on. The ability to hurt you while maintaining innocence. The capacity to sabotage you while appearing helpful. The skill of undermining you while seeming supportive. But you knew. Deep down, you knew. Your spirit recognized what your mind tried to rationalize away. Your intuition detected what your logic tried to explain away. Your soul perceived what your emotions tried to excuse away. And every time you questioned yourself, every time you doubted your own perception, every time you gave benefit of the doubt, you were actually going against your own inner knowing. You were overriding your own spiritual guidance. You were dismissing your own divine protection system. That's why this confirmation is so important right now. You need to hear that you were right. You need to know that your perception was accurate. You need to understand that your intuition was correct. Not so grudges can be held, not so revenge can be sought, but so you can trust yourself moving forward, so you can honor your inner knowing in future situations, so you can act on your spiritual guidance without second-guessing yourself into paralysis. Now let's talk about what was really being targeted. Because the surface attacks, the obvious sabotage, the visible interference, that was all just tactics. The real target was deeper. Your confidence was wanted. Your belief in yourself was wanted. Your sense of worthiness was wanted. Your connection to your own power was wanted. Because if you could be made to doubt yourself, if you could be made to question your own value, if you could be made to feel unworthy of the blessings coming toward you, then physical stopping wouldn't be needed. You would stop yourself. That's the ultimate goal of spite and malice. Not just to hurt you externally, but to damage you internally. Not just to block your opportunities, but to make you believe you don't deserve opportunities. Not just to steal your resources, but to convince you that you're not capable of generating resources. Not just to ruin your reputation, but to make you feel like maybe you deserve a ruined reputation. The external attacks are just the delivery system for the internal poison. The real damage being attempted is psychological, emotional, spiritual. And for some of you it worked. For a season, for a period, for a moment, you started doubting yourself. You started questioning your gifts. You started wondering if maybe you were aiming too high. You started thinking that maybe you should just settle for less. You started believing that maybe you weren't as special as you thought. Maybe you weren't as talented as you believed. Maybe you weren't as anointed as you felt. The poison started working, but something wouldn't let you stay there. Something kept pulling you back to truth. Something kept reminding you of who you really are. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe it was a word from someone who genuinely sees you. Maybe it was a moment of clarity during meditation or prayer. Maybe it was just a stubborn refusal deep in your spirit that wouldn't accept the lies. Whatever it was, something kept you from fully believing the poison being fed to you. Something kept you connected to truth, even when lies surrounded you. Something kept you anchored to your real identity, even when attacks tried to make you forget that something was divine protection, that something was spiritual covering, that something was heavenly intervention. Because while attacks were happening on earth, you were being defended in the heavens. While plotting was happening against you in the physical, strategies were being formed for you in the spiritual. While malicious work was happening against you in the visible realm, protective forces were working for you in the invisible realm. You were never as alone as you felt. You were never as undefended as it seemed. You were never as vulnerable as was assumed by attackers. Every attack was actually working for you. Every obstacle was actually positioning you. Every setback was actually setting you up. Not because the attacks themselves were good, but because you have favor that converts curses into blessings. You have grace that transforms opposition into opportunity. You have anointing that turns weapons formed against you into tools working for you. You were thought to be stopped. You were actually being strengthened. You were thought to be blocked. You were actually being built. You were thought to be destroyed. You were actually being developed. Every attack forced you to dig deeper into your own power. Every obstacle forced you to discover resources you didn't know you had. Every betrayal forced you to develop discernment you didn't have before. You were being trained for the dimension you're entering without it even being known. You were being prepared for the level you're accessing without it being intended. You were being equipped for the mission you're stepping into without it being realized. That's the difference between you and those who came against you. When pressure came, when opposition showed up, when attacks landed, malice was chosen by some, spite was chosen, hurting others was chosen. But you chose growth, you chose elevation, you chose to become better rather than bitter. That choice, that decision, that commitment to your own evolution, despite what was happening, that's what qualified you for the next dimension. That's what prepared you for the higher frequency. That's what equipped you for the new reality. Here's what's happening right now in the invisible realm, in the spiritual dimension, in the place where energy moves before it manifests, massive shifts, unprecedented alignments, divine coordination of circumstances you can't see yet but will experience soon. Money is moving toward you right now. Opportunities are being positioned for you right now. Connections are being arranged for you right now. Justice is being prepared for you right now. Vindication is being set up for you right now. Breakthrough is being orchestrated for you right now. While attacks were happening, while malice was being directed, while spite was being expressed, something else was happening simultaneously. Something was building in the background the entire time. New money was positioning itself to reach you. Big money, money that operates outside the old system, money that flows from that dimension beyond the nine, money that was always meant for you but has been in transit, delayed by interference but never denied by destiny. And it's not just money, it's vindication, it's validation, it's payback in every sense of the word. See, all that hating was thought to be free, all that lying was thought to have no cost, all that manipulating was thought to come with no consequences. Attacking you maliciously, sabotaging you deliberately, cursing you intentionally, and walking away clean was thought possible. But there's a bill, there's always a bill, and it's coming due, not might come due, not hopefully coming due, it is coming due right now, in this season, in this moment. Some of you are about to see literal money show up that is owed to you, debts that were thought would never have to be repaid, resources that were thought could be kept, finances that were thought you'd forget about. Pay up season, payment has to come up. Others are going to see spiritual payback, the universe balancing scales, justice manifesting in ways that shock you. People who attacked you experiencing the exact chaos attempted to be created in your life, not because you cursed them back, not because you retaliated, but because the system itself corrects, reality itself responds, truth itself defends. But here's what you need to understand about this payback, and this is crucial. It's not just about what attackers deserve, it's about you receiving what you've earned. It's not just about consequences for them, it's about your compensation. It's not just about any fall, it's about your rise, and your rise isn't dependent on any fall. Your elevation happens whether punishment occurs or not. Your breakthrough manifests whether exposure happens or not. Your blessing arrives whether accountability is seen or not, because what's coming to you isn't connected to anyone else. It's connected to you completing that 0 through 9 cycle. It's connected to you reaching the edge. It's connected to you being ready to step into that new dimension. You're at the edge while others are still running in circles. You're seeing beyond the matrix while others are still respecting its limitations. You're preparing to leap while others are still playing it safe. And that gap creates distance, that difference creates tension, that evolution creates separation. Isolation isn't rejection, it's selection. You weren't pushed out, you were separated out. You weren't excluded, you were extracted. You weren't abandoned, you were positioned. Positioned to hear something you couldn't hear in the noise, positioned to see something you couldn't see in the crowd. Positioned to receive something you couldn't receive while surrounded by frequencies that don't match where you're headed. You needed this alone time to get clear, crystal clear, about what you're actually building, about where you're actually going, about who you're actually becoming. Because what's about to break through in your life requires a completely different mindset than what you had before. It requires a totally different frequency than you were operating on. It requires an entirely different level of consciousness than you were functioning with. Look, You already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Their walls are closing in. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. Wongba, the beauty is you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. There's been an imposter in your circle, maybe still there, maybe just left. Maybe you're about to discover who it is, but someone has been pretending, wearing a mask, playing a role, presenting an image that doesn't match reality. Charm came, words came, promises came, but substance never came. Consistency never came, results never came. How do you know who the imposter is? Simple, look at the results. Someone said going to the gym every day was happening. Did weight loss happen? Did muscle gain happen? Did anything change? No. Imposter. Someone said working on a business was happening. Did anything launch? Did any money come in? Did any progress show? No. Imposter. Someone said changing habits, growing, evolving was happening. Are the exact same things still being done? Are the same excuses still being made? Are the same outcomes still being produced? Imposter. Your truth is starting to show. Your results are beginning to prove who you are. Your progress is starting to validate what you've been building. While talking was happening elsewhere, you were working. While performing was happening elsewhere, you were preparing. While attention was being sought elsewhere, you were developing substance. And now the difference is becoming obvious. Now the gap is becoming visible. Now the truth is becoming undeniable. You're the real thing. You're the genuine article. You're the authentic version. This is why the attack intensified. This is why the malice became so obvious. This is why the spite revealed itself. Because once your results started showing, once your truth became evident, exposure would happen, the imposter would be identified, the fraud would be revealed, the pretender would be seen for what actually exists there. So stopping your truth before it could fully manifest was attempted. Sabotaging your results before celebration could happen was attempted. Destroying your progress before it could be witnessed was attempted. But too late, way too late. Your truth is already showing. Your results are already proving. Your substance is already evident. Now here's where we get to the shift, the turn, the transformation, because you're not just recovering from attacks. You're not just surviving malicious interference. You're not just enduring spite-filled obstacles, you're transcending the entire system that allowed those attacks to happen in the first place. You're ascending beyond the frequency where that malice could reach you. You're elevating into a dimension where that spite has no power. You completed the cycle, you hit 9, and now you're stepping into what comes after. What comes after 9? Not 10. 10 is just 1 and 0, which loops you back into the same system. What comes after 9 is something entirely new, something completely outside the matrix, something that doesn't operate on the 0 through 9 scale at all. A new beginning that's not bound by old rules, a fresh start that's not limited by old patterns, a brand new dimension that functions on principles the old system doesn't recognize, and chosen one. You're creating it right now, in this moment, with every choice you make, with every decision you commit to, with every boundary you enforce. You're not just receiving a blessing, you're constructing a reality. You're not just waiting for opportunity, you're generating new possibilities. You're not just hoping things change, you're changing the entire game. Because that's what happens when you reach the edge. That's what occurs when you complete the cycle. That's what manifests when you're ready to step beyond the matrix. You stop being subject to the system and start being creator of systems. And now you're stepping into it. Now you're accessing it. Now you're living it. And watching is happening, seeing is happening, witnessing is happening, of the very thing attempted to be prevented, and it's eating at those who opposed you, because everything was thrown at you, best tactics were used, strongest weapons were employed, most strategic plans were executed, and you're still here, you're still rising, you're still winning, you're still breaking through, despite everything, in spite of everything, because of what was awakened in you. This is the justice, this is the vindication, this is the payback, not you getting revenge, you getting results, not you hurting anyone back, you succeeding beyond anyone's reach, not you cursing anyone, you being so blessed that any curses look ridiculous, not you fighting anyone. And that's the ultimate victory. Not defeating anyone in their arena, leaving their arena altogether, not beating anyone at their game, refusing to play their game, not proving anyone wrong on their terms, creating new terms where their opinions are irrelevant. You're not trying to convince anyone of your worth, you're living in your worth. You're not trying to prove your value to anyone, you're operating in your value. You're not trying to win anyone's approval, you're moving with divine approval. What's breaking through right now isn't small, it isn't incremental, it isn't a slight upgrade to what you already have. What's coming is a complete shift, a total transformation, a fundamental restructuring of your entire reality. The attacks you survived were proportional to the blessing you're receiving. The intensity of the malice you endured was equal to the magnitude of the breakthrough you're entering. Think about it. Why would so much energy be invested in stopping you if what you were heading toward wasn't massive? Why would so much spite be directed at you if your destiny wasn't significant? Why would so much malice be calculated against you if your breakthrough wasn't threatening to the old system? The opposition you faced is direct evidence of the opportunity you're accessing. And here's what makes this breakthrough different from anything you've experienced before. You're not hoping for it. You're not wishing for it. You're not crossing your fingers and praying it works out. You're walking into it with full consciousness, full awareness, full understanding of exactly what you survived to get here. You know what attacks look like now. You know what malice feels like now. You know what spite operates like now. And that knowledge is power. That awareness is protection. That understanding is armor. You're entering this new dimension with your eyes wide open, with your discernment fully activated, with your intuition firing on all cylinders. You're not naive anymore. You're not trusting blindly anymore. You're not giving benefit of the doubt to energy that doesn't deserve it anymore. You're sharp, you're aware, you're vigilant, and that makes you dangerous. Not dangerous to good people, dangerous to manipulation, dangerous to deception, dangerous to anyone who tries to operate in your life with hidden agendas. The version of you entering this breakthrough is not the same version that experienced those attacks. You've been transformed through the fire. You've been refined through the pressure. You've been purified through the persecution. What emerges from fire isn't the same as what went in. What comes out of pressure isn't identical to what entered. What survives persecution is fundamentally different from what it was before the testing. And this new version of you, this evolved version, this upgraded version, this is the version that can handle what's coming. Because what's coming would have destroyed the old you. What's approaching would have overwhelmed the unprepared you. What's breaking through would have crushed the unrefined you. But you're not that person anymore. You've been made ready. You've been prepared. You've been equipped. In this new dimension, your peace is protected. Your energy is guarded. Your time is valued. You're not accessible to everyone anymore. You're not available to every request anymore. You're not open to every opportunity anymore. Because you understand now that not everything that looks like an opportunity is actually beneficial. Not everyone who wants access to you has good intentions. Not every door that opens is meant to be walked through. You've learned to check the spirit behind things, to discern the motive beneath the surface, to sense the energy before you engage, and this discernment is saving you from situations that look appealing but are actually traps, from connections that seem beneficial but are actually draining, from opportunities that appear profitable but are actually distractions. Now let's talk specifically about the wealth that's manifesting. And when I say wealth, I'm not just talking about money, although money is absolutely part of it. I'm talking about comprehensive wealth. Financial wealth, yes, but also relational wealth, spiritual wealth, emotional wealth, mental wealth, physical wealth, wealth in every dimension of your existence. Financial wealth is coming through channels you didn't build, through connections you didn't make, through opportunities you didn't chase, because you're operating on a different frequency now. On this frequency, things come to you. You don't have to desperately seek them. You don't have to anxiously pursue them. You don't have to frantically grab for them. You position yourself. You prepare yourself. You align yourself, and what's meant for you finds you. Some of you are about to receive inheritance you didn't know existed, discover assets you weren't aware of, gain access to resources that were hidden from you, not by accident. Someone knew these things existed and intentionally kept you from knowing, but secrets don't stay hidden forever. Truth always comes to light, and the revelation that's coming is going to shock you. It's going to anger you. It's going to validate everything you suspected about being cheated, being robbed, being denied what was rightfully yours. And when that revelation comes, when you discover what was kept from you, when you see what was stolen from you, you're going to have a choice. You can focus on the betrayal, or you can focus on the restoration. You can dwell on what was taken, or you can celebrate what's being returned. You can stay angry about the theft, or you can get excited about the recovery. And I'm telling you right now, focus on the restoration, celebrate the return, get excited about the recovery, because what's coming back to you is coming back multiplied. Relational wealth is manifesting too. You're about to experience a shift in the quality of people who have access to you. The drainers are leaving, the takers are departing, the users are exiting, and the givers are arriving. The supporters are coming, the genuine ones are appearing. People who see you, people who value you, people who appreciate you, people who celebrate you, people who add to you instead of subtracting from you. You're not going to have to force it. You're not going to have to manipulate it. You're not going to have to orchestrate it. It's happening naturally, organically, divinely, because your frequency changed. When your frequency changes, your connections change. When your vibration shifts, your circle shifts. When your consciousness elevates, your relationships elevate. People who match the old frequency can't tolerate the new frequency. It makes them uncomfortable. It exposes them. It reveals where they really are versus where they pretend to be. So instead of rising to meet you at your new level, instead of doing the work to elevate themselves, instead of being inspired by your growth, some of them will simply leave. They'll create distance. They'll manufacture reasons to exit. They'll find fault with you that justifies their departure. Let them go. Don't chase them. Don't convince them. Don't beg them to stay, because anyone who leaves during your elevation wasn't meant to be with you at your destination. Anyone who exits during your breakthrough doesn't have the capacity to handle your abundance. Anyone who turns away during your transformation doesn't have the character to celebrate your success. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your breakthrough. You were right about everything, the bad and the good, the attacks and the blessings, the malice and the breakthrough. All of it was real. All of it was accurate. All of it was true, and now both realities are converging. The judgment on your enemies and the elevation of your life, the exposure of the impostors and the manifestation of your substance, the consequences for actions taken against you and the compensation for your endurance, the payback owed and the pay-up you deserve. You made it to the edge. You survived the attacks, you endured the malice, you overcame the spite, and now you're stepping into everything that was always meant for you. New money, new opportunities, new connections, new peace, new joy, new freedom, new power, new everything, because you completed the cycle. You reached the 9, you made it to the edge, and now you're stepping beyond into something that can't be controlled, can't be touched, can't be interfered with. You're free, truly free, and that freedom is just the beginning.